So let's talk about overcoming food addictions. Just to precise, addictions is, of course, about the substance. Some substances are more addictive than others, but it's mainly about the relationship with the substance. So here we're going to look at both because in the food world, there are substances that are quite addictive, but it's also a lot of a relationship with the food that makes it addictive or not. And it's a little bit more subtle than things like smoking cigarettes because that's something that we also need to live. We need to eat to survive. But at the same time, the way we eat currently is quite disconnected from what we actually need. So to start with, I want to share with you that we are doing amazing. Like when we're already aiming for that high fruit, high raw vegan diet, like we're doing so well compared to most people. And we're tackling something that's probably the most ingrained in us, addictive pattern, because having not the right food for us has been something we've been doing since we were like maybe 3 years old or 4 year old, even a bit younger. And if it is much harder to change an addictive behavior that's been since that long. It is so hard. For example, if someone wants to stop smoking or drinking alcohol, they probably started that at what, 13-year-old, 14-year-old? It's hard. But imagine something that we started when we were like little babies, when we were sad and someone gave us a pack of candies, so we stopped crying and we numbed our emotions through the food when we were like 3 year old. So it takes a lot of time. It is deep in our biology. It is deep in our ancestral lines, right? It's deep in the collective consciousness. So we're doing some super deep work here. So first, acknowledge yourself, give yourself a tap on the shoulder for doing such a deep work. So now, looking at the addictive patterns we can have with food, generally that comes down to, there's a physical side, there's like a chemical side that is addictive in certain foods. And then there's the emotional side that, in my opinion, is quite stronger. And the emotional side comes from the positive side. So one side is we got love from food. Like if our grandmother was cooking a chicken at Christmas, that was her way to express love to us. That was a way to give, and we receive love through that food. So there is a strong association there that we will need to rewire. And is also the more negative side, the numbing, right? We've been used to numb our feelings with food to get, probably our parents didn't know better and yeah, gave us candy. So we stopped, doing whatever was annoying or being sad or whatever. So there is that like really deep emotional component of it. And on top of it, there is a physical one. So if you take cheese, for example, in cow's milk, there are some addictive components, and that's a mechanism from nature. So the calf comes back to drink the cow's milk. Now, if you think like me that cow's milk is not for humans, it's for cows, well, in that regard, we want to let go of that which can be perceived as an addiction. So in my case, I'm French too, so I have there's a chemical part of the cheese that's addictive, and there is the cultural one. And cheese is often cited as one of the hardest things to stop. It's because it has those two components. While a lot of them, if you take, like there are some things, like for me, for example, I can speak for me, a lot of meat was much easier to quit because I think I didn't really like it in the first place. So I just had that habit, So now that we know this, we stay compassionate with ourselves. And at the same time, we want to go in the direction that we set ourselves to go. So in that regards, when the food craving comes, when you see the addictive pattern coming back, there's a few things we can do. Well, first, it's a good reminder that it's good to take care of our environment, so that comes less. And we have, it's important to have a why, a strong why. Why am I doing this? Do I want more energy? Do I want to be an inspiration for people? Because do I want to build muscle, whatever? Because when that why is there, it makes it easier not to succumb to the short-term pleasure, to that ephemeric, like that quick sensation. So I think it's really important that keep that in mind, go back to your why. And so that's more a mind-oriented activity, which helps, is important to have, but it's really important to get the mind and the body to work together, to work as a team. So as the body can trust us to give good food, then through the detox cleansing process and refinement of our palate, we can in turn trust the body more and more. So in that retraining of the body, what we can do is to really feel. So it's not just, oh, I should eat raw. It's like, how does it feel when I eat raw? And how does it feel when I eat cooked? So you can imagine the feeling, or you can actually take a bite. I do that sometimes. So proceed with caution there. It depends on what works for you and the level of addiction. But for me, sometimes I'm at a restaurant and let's say there's a vegan pizza there and I'm like, oh, I want that. Like, I think I want that. And then I can even either feel into it and be like, actually, I don't really want it. I want my bowl of mango. I want my salad right now. I want that freshness and aliveness. Oh, if really the feeling persists, sometimes I'll have a bite or two. I try to keep it like low and use the discipline not to start to indulge. But I'll have a little bit and really feel, what do I like about it? Oh, it's the salt. Salt is quite addictive, actually. There's also a lot of the things we love, ham, cheese, it's also because they're very salty. Oh, I love the salt. I love the heaviness of it. And at the same time, I can feel, oh, that makes me a bit dehydrated. I can taste it, can feel it already. Oh, I feel a bit numbed. I don't really like that feeling. I don't feel as much vitality. After a bite, maybe I go back to my salad and I'm actually very happy to have it. Again, proceed with caution. And then if you really indulge, so there's like, I can imagine if I had it and sometimes it stops me. Sometimes I have a bite and then I'm like, okay, actually I want the raw stuff. But you know, I'm human, it happens. I was at a restaurant, I ate more. And then after I kind of regret it a bit, I feel like, okay, that was a bit more than necessary. I don't feel so good. Well, that's a beautiful opportunity. Well, first is an opportunity for compassion. So can be like, okay, that what's done's done. I enjoyed, that's great. I'm already doing so well. Plus, that's a great opportunity to feel. So if I don't feel good, I'm really going to feel, oh, I feel dehydrated right now. I feel heavy. I really feel the consequences of my actions. So next time I get an embodied experience of how it is, not just in the temporary pleasure, but in the longer run. And so doing this, some things that may feel really hard to overcome now will, with time, become a distant memory. There was a time when I felt it'd be really hard to not smoke. Today, I have no desire to smoke a cigarette. And this has happened with many things. So there are things today that I think that are quite challenging, that in a few years will become a distant memory too. It's just with time, with consistency. It's the same with you. If there's something you're like, it's so hard, I will never get over this. You will. And again, it will be a distant memory one day. Like I'm sure you can find examples of things a few years ago, you would think, I would never give that up. And you did. And now it's totally fine. So remember, we're doing some hard, deep work here. Stay compassionate and keep doing what you think is best for you. Sending much love.